All right, guys, what's up? Another ladies' night. Moff, take it away, brother.
Yeah, ladies, thanks for joining. This is going to be our last ladies' night of 2024. So thanks for everybody who could be on this evening. We're going to do a quick round of intros. Really simply, just your name, your age, where you're from, and then your current relationship status. We'll make it easy this week. I'm just going to go from left to right. We'll start with Jacqueline.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline. I am 29. I've been in a relationship for 2 years, and I live in Orange County, California.
Maria.
Hi guys, I'm Maria. I'm 21 years old and I live in Honolulu, Hawaii. And my current relationship status is single.
Okay. How about you, Danielle?
So I'm Danielle and I'm 22 years old. I live in Pensacola, Florida, and I have now been married for 7 months.
Catherine.
Hi, I am Catherine. I'm also from Orange County, California, and my relationship status is a bit complicated. So
She told us before that she was single, I guess, was the actual quote. So we're going to come back
I
to
did
that.
say
I
that.
think. We'll come back to that. But
I
Luna,
think
welcome
that's the
back.
favorite way I've heard a relationship
Yeah.
described.
Totally. Give us your intro real quick.
I'm 20 years old. I'm Luna. I'm from Florida, and I'm talking to a new guy.
Talking to the new guy. Okay. And Anna, welcome back again. Just for the people that haven't seen you before, how about your intro?
I'm 21. I live in the US, and I'm not available right now. Or
In a relationship. Okay. We'll just say that. Okay. Rich, where do you want to start?
Sorry, I missed the first two, Jacqueline, Maria, but kick off with whatever you got on the list with questions, and we'll just sort of dive in through stuff.
Yeah, so I think the first thing I want to start with came from Jacqueline. So Jacqueline is a dating coach for women, is not a dating coach for men, which
Okay.
seems to be an interesting twist. But Jacqueline, I first would like to hear about that a little bit. Like what coaching you do, what's your goal, who's your primary target audience, client, et cetera. Just your, 30,000 foot view of what you do.
Sure, thanks for asking. I actually am working with emotionally unavailable Christian women only. So kind of a niche market. All of my followers are saving themselves for marriage. They're dating in order to find their husband, and they all want to be moms and wives. So I work with them as an NLP practitioner, basically reprogramming their subconscious beliefs so that they don't sabotage love and that they can actually fall for a quality gentleman, family man, provider in my mind, and stop going for the toxic relationships that a lot of us experiment with in our 20s.
Okay.
What's the average age of one of your clients?
30.
30. Right at the epiphany. Okay.
Interesting.
And what's the biggest hurdle they have?
Going for men just based off physical attraction versus their family values or how he treats them, and shared vision of wanting to be in a family and married.
Okay. So kind of to drill down that a little bit further. So abandoning attraction cues for more provider cues. Is that what I'm hearing?
Mostly the focus is on family men, just from my own values and the values of my clients. We're looking for people who want to be married, want to become a father, and have that traditional view of providing for their wife and children, as opposed to interviewing the men just based on how they look.
How successful are they on getting that with looks, or do they have to give up the looks to get that?
I find that they have to give up the looks to get that.
Okay.
Yeah, because Jacqueline, you mentioned specifically like your relationship, and you mentioned, because this is something you wanted to talk about was GBD. And one of the things you disagreed with was it's not necessarily important that you have genuine burning desire for a man at first, because you didn't with the guy you're currently with, but it was other things that brought you to him. So can you talk about that a little bit and what you mean?
Right. So I'm a big fan of Rich's book. I actually read it back in 2021. I listened to the audiobook, and one of the few things that I disagreed with is that genuine burning desire has to be there at first. Just because with my current gentleman that I am dating, he wasn't my physical type at first. I always preferred the Vin Diesel archetype, bald bodybuilder, and that's what my exes had also been, but the treatment wasn't there. I found that they were not very masculine, even though they looked very masculine and presented very alpha, as far as being, give, protect, and cherish. And so at first, with the gentleman I'm dating now, he is from India, and we actually met at dance class. But he wasn't my physical type as far as being bald or a bodybuilder physique. But I just wanted to show the concept of actually coming to fall in love and love somebody fully. I can't see myself with anybody else now, especially somebody who was my physical type, because I think I've just kind of learned that for me as a woman, the looks don't really keep me warm at night or, pay for my future kids to go to private school, for example. So I think that I'm 29.
Yeah. Okay. Are you
So I
guys
think
getting married? Have you been proposed to, or?
So actually, we've been talking about getting engaged and married in 2025.
Okay. Interesting.
So you said that your clients are average age 30, but so all of those women are saving themselves for marriage and they have not laid with anybody before they came to you?
It's about 50-50, yeah.
Okay.
Really? You've got 30-year-old
You can't really go
virgins
back
in
in
your
the
client
story.
list?
But I will say that naturally, most of them are considered born-again virgins.
That doesn't count.
There we go. Yeah, that's not real.
That's bullshit.
So
Born
if you take those out, what's the actual split? Like true virgins versus like non-virgins?
I don't know any true virgins.
Any.
Okay.
Not one.
Yeesh. Okay.
I know many women.
How does
who've
one
been
become
celibate.
born again virgin? Like, is this like, how does one go through this process of
Baptism.
losing their virginity again?
Right. It's just by being baptized.
By being baptized and repenting, sort of thing. Like, you have Jesus, forgive you.
They kind of start their abstinence and celibacy after they are baptized.
Got it. And what sort of dating history have these gals had that have gotten right with God and become baptized and become born again virgins? Like, have they dated a lot of guys, or?
Actually, all of the women that I seem to attract they're always relationship type women. They really stay away from casual sex. Nobody that I'm close to follows promiscuity. They really would only make love inside of a committed relationship. So usually they're coming out of longer term relationships or engagements where they're like, the next gentleman I'm going to date is going to be my husband.
Okay.
But the advice is to essentially have them not have sex until they're married to that guy.
Correct.
So
And
why
the
would
men
a
seem
guy
to be okay
pay
with
for
this.
something that she's given away for free to somebody else?
Yeah, I definitely see that perspective as well.
Like, nobody wants to pay more for a product or service that was given away for free to somebody else. You see what I'm saying?
I think at this point where they are in dating, the partners that they attract, it's going to be a gentleman who prefers a woman with, I like to say the lowest head count in Orange County. So as compared to a true virgin at this point.
Got it. Okay. So the disagreement that you were talking about was with genuine burning desire, where it has to be there before you proceed with dating, right? So the problem with that, as I've seen it evolve since I've written the book several years ago, is a lot of guys get into a marriage or a long-term relationship or some form of commitment that involves inviting her into his life, wife, girlfriend, live in something or another. And what often happens is women at that stage in their life don't get their first choice. They sometimes don't get their second or even third choice. They might end up settling for their fifth or sixth choice. And what ends up happening to those guys is they get destroyed later on down the road, 5, 6, 7, 10 years down the road. After they've been married, they've lived together long enough. She's entitled to half of his stuff. She can take the kids, give him the "I love you, but I'm not in love with you. I'm going to my mom's house this week, and I want a divorce." That's the reason why I tell guys to ensure that she has a genuine burning desire for you. If it doesn't exist from the get-go, I don't think that you can convince her that it's something that she needs to have for you. It's got to be organic, right? You can't manufacture it. But you disagree with that, is what you're saying.
I think I mostly agree with you. I definitely have not been married yet where I'm at that point where I'm like, I love you, but I'm not in love with you, or, whatever I have loyalty wise just isn't enough to sustain because there's somebody who I have genuine burning desire. I mean, it's totally a possible scenario that I understand happens in marriages. In my experience, my relationship taught me that you can fall in love even if you aren't in love at first sight.
Okay. Well, we'll see how that pans out for you and your clients as time passes on, I guess, right?
Sure thing.
Let's Kendall just came in. Let's do a quick introduction for Kendall. Hey, Kendall. Oh my goodness. Are you like at a restaurant or something?
Yes. Can you hear the music in the background?
So yeah, it's so bad in the background.
The music is overpowering.
Yeah.
I don't think my headphones are working. They're connected, but it's coming out of the speaker. I'll mute my mic. Can you give me just a minute and I'll try to move?
Yeah, I'll pull you off and then we can see if you can sort that out. We might just have to bring you back in January, but we can keep on going. Okay. I mean, there's another thing we want to talk about in Jacqueline's realm, but we'll kind of go around to a different topic. And again, ladies, if you have things to chime in on, I mean, I want to see what the rest of the panel thinks about that. I mean, are you going to go after a guy that you're not attracted to? Are you going to, is it something that you'd rather wait and see? And
I think the
see if it
question needs
develops
to be
later.
how important is initial attraction to the ladies that aren't Jackie right now?
I will
mean,
say,
for
I
me,
think it has to be there.
Danielle, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, I think there has to be somewhat of an initial attraction. However, as women, we thrive on the emotional connection, right? So when we start to build that emotional connection, it makes that person become more attractive to us with time. But if there's no initial attraction, it's not going to magically happen for you down the road.
Catherine, you had something?
I'm definitely going to agree with her. Like, it's looks that get you, that bring you up to that person, but it's like what's inside that keeps you over time, at least when you get to a certain point in life, for me. But yeah, absolutely, I have to have attraction, but I'm not just looking at like, oh, like that's like a really attractive man, like how does he treat other people? And I get like men can come up to me where I'm like, no, thank you, sir, and could be phenomenal people. And maybe I'll give them a chance, but absolutely, I'm going to want someone that takes care of themselves, eats properly, likes to be active, because I see that in the long run and they're investing in themselves and like their health. And so for me, that already keys me in, like, they're going to be like a good, like long-term partner and take care of their health. Because if I am going to be married to someone, I don't want to be married to someone who's a slob that eats a bunch of fast food and I have to like worry about him having a heart attack. Like, that doesn't vibe with me. So.
Who else?
Just go across the bottom, Luna.
I definitely agree with all the ladies. For me, this year was kind of like that year where I'm like, I need to start dating out of my type, because the ultimate end goal is marriage, and I don't think I would be able to have a relationship or a long-lasting relationship if I'm only attracted to them physically and not emotionally. So yeah, it's just things like that I've considered this year, and I feel like this year, like, I've seen a lot of progress in my dating life.
But how do you go about that?
Sorry, I didn't get the age. How old are you?
I'm 21.
21, okay.
Yeah, so super young. But
Sorry,
how do
Moff,
you go about?
Well, I'm just saying, how do you go about dating outside of your type? I mean, if you're not attracted to a guy, I mean, what draws you to him in the first place? Then, I mean, so like, are we talking about dating outside of my type? Is I'm going for guys that I'm not attracted to? I'm trying to make sure we drill down on.
I feel like,
again, you said we're single too, so I don't know. I mean,
right.
How well is it working out for you?
I feel like not necessarily. I feel like because I'm like super like young, I grew up in a very conservative household, actually, so I wasn't able to start dating until I was like 18, which was like only 3 years ago now that I think about it. And so the type of guys that I would go for back then would be like athletes or like, you know, people who are very like in shape. And like those are still the type of guys that like I go for, but not just athletes. Like I still want someone that I'm attracted to and someone that's you know, takes care of themselves, because I'm very big on health and wellness. So I wouldn't go for someone who, it's like what Catherine said, is like a slob and like eats like shit. Like I wouldn't go for
But
someone.
I'm failing to understand like how you're dating outside of your type. Like you say you like athletes and you like attractive guys that take care of themselves, but
Well,
how have you gone outside of that? Like who have you dated that hasn't fit that mold, and like how has that worked out for you?
This is
can
just
I
kind of
ask
like
a question?
an example. Sorry. This is kind of just
Sorry.
like, yeah, you can go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, because I also want to differentiate. Like, there's like the appearance type, and then like
Yeah.
also like what if it's personality type? So like,
Yeah.
which point are like we also like touching base on?
Yeah.
So
I feel like I've gone out more of like the look side, but I'm still kind of going for like the same like personality. And this is just an example. Like, for example, like I was into like black guys at first, and then now like, you know, I started dating like people of like other races. Like that's kind of like what I mean.
So it still only has to do with physical attraction and what you see on the surface. That's all I'm
No.
hearing.
For me, it's like less on like the physical. I'm still going for guys who have like that personality, because like when you first meet someone, you could still kind of like, you know, you're not just looking at like their, or when you have like that initial conversation with someone, you can kind of already have an idea of like what kind of like person that they are. So that also like draws me like to them as well.
Okay. I don't know if I got an answer, but I think we're going to move on. Danielle, you said something about gender roles within a marriage and a relationship, and you wanted to talk about that. So you've said that you're freshly married, 7 months, but you see it as 50-50. You currently do it 50-50. You both work. And you mentioned that you don't plan on quitting work, or you plan to still work even after you're a mother and have kids. So what did you want to delve into as far as that?
I've watched a couple of your episodes in the past, and I know that you guys seem to have a traditional mindset on that. And so I don't know. I don't know if I have a specific topic about that I want to bring up. More so just it seemed kind of something that I wanted to discuss further, like what your thoughts are on that. And then I can probably come back with like my thoughts of your thoughts.
Quick question. How old is your husband?
He's 24.
Okay. And how long have you known him before you got married?
4 years? 3 years?
Your
3.5.
first, or was it your first?
Yeah.
Okay. And your plan is to have family, children, but right now you guys are sort of splitting roles?
Yeah.
What are you going to do when you're a mom and you've got a baby to deal with? Are you still going to split the roles now?
My goal is to put them in daycare probably, or stay at home until they are old enough to go to school and then start working again.
Or she might let me watch them too.
Two different paths. Are you guys friends? You close
Big
by?
difference.
Anna and Danielle?
We're
Sisters.
sisters.
Oh, sisters.
Yeah, we're
Oh.
sisters.
Okay. Well,
Because I'm
Forgot to mention that.
a full-time nanny.
there we
right
go.
now.
Sisters side by side.
Thanks.
I love kids, so
Yeah.
both of my sisters, if they live close to me when they have kids, I would watch them.
Awesome.
Like, for sure.
Do you think that
But
daycare
I
is a
would
good
say-
idea for children, though?
You mean to put them, what do you mean?
Yeah, I'm just curious on your opinion on daycare, because I mean, the first thing you said was I put them in daycare. So I'm just wondering, you know, what are your thoughts on daycare? Is that something that you're comfortable with?
It's something I've gone back and forth about. The organization that I work for right now is a Christian college, and they have a daycare that's associated with them that I would be comfortable with. However, if we started moving and working somewhere different, then I wouldn't be comfortable with that, and I would probably take a few years off of work until my kids were old enough to go to school.
Right. Okay.
What does your husband think of that?
Yeah.
He agrees with me.
How many kids do you guys want to have?
Probably just 1 or 2. I also plan to adopt, but not for much further down the road.
Why adopt?
Just because there's such a big need for it, and I really feel called to that, to help those kids,
Why?
because they have gone through so much and been so mistreated.
Yeah, but I mean, you're young. You've got the ability to mother a whole bunch of kids. There's 40, 50, year old people out there that would love to adopt because they can't have kids. Why not have your own children?
I still want to have my own children. I just don't want to have a ton of them. I grew up in a family that we had 7 kids, and I think while that was great, and my parents are amazing, that's not the lifestyle that I personally would want.
So I'm curious about that. So, we live in a world today where women are having fewer children than ever, right? I mean, like the replacement rate has to be 2.1 kids per couple to replace aging, dying off population in North America. I think in the States it's 1.5, in Canada it's 1.4. Pretty much all around the globe, Europe, Asia, Australia, South America, Central America, none of those countries are at the replacement rate. I think Africa is the only country that's well above it. Like there's certain countries in Africa where it's 6 or 7. So they're outperforming us in that regard. As a young woman that is now married and you want to have kids, like why stop at 2?
Honestly, the biggest reason is the economy and the fact that right now we're barely able to make ends meet with 2 incomes, and we have a pretty small place right now. So as we work our way up, in our careers and we're able to make more income, then we'll start having kids. But obviously, we're not in a place to do that right now, and I don't envision ourselves getting to a place.
$500,000 a year.
What's that?
Would you have a bunch more if he was making $500,000 a year?
Yeah, I would be open to having more.
Okay, so it's a money
if
issue.
I knew that I could support them.
Yeah. Is that
important for you to work? I want to ask
Sorry.
really quick. Like Danielle, is it like important for you to work? Like, I mean, I want like if your husband made enough to support the whole family, would you quit your job or would you still want to work and do a 40-hour week job?
If he made enough, I would not want to work 40 hours. However, I write for my career, and that's very important to me. So I would probably do freelance writing on the side.
Okay.
So I was going to ask the rest of the panel, like, how do you all feel about kids, the number of kids that you want to have?
I know that my partner and I have talked about having 2, and that I definitely personally don't believe in daycare. I want to make sure that my children are loved all day. So I would not outsource that. And it's really important for my partner to be a provider. And that's what he had in his parents. And actually his parents had an arranged marriage. And I feel like I have nothing but respect for that. And it's our goal that if we get married, that we keep the family together and definitely don't get divorced, just like a lot of arranged marriages commit to staying together. So that's our take on kids.
How important are kids to the rest of the gals on the panel?
I want kids in the future.
Yeah. Anna?
I definitely want kids, but it needs to be for me with the right man. Like, I'm not just going to have kids with a man if I don't think that he would be a good dad and be around. But have I thought in the future, like, it's gonna be so silly, but like there are like women that go out and they like go to like a clinic and they get pregnant and then they raise their kid. Or if I'm also very pro adoption. I work very closely with foster care kids throughout like my life, and I just know the statistics. So at some point, like whether there's a man or not, like I know like I will have kids, whether that's through adoption or not, just because statistically, I think it would be a beautiful thing to be able to adopt a child and like ensure like they have a brighter future than like what could have been possible if they were bounced around to different foster care homes or orphanages. So yeah, because fun fact, only 3% of former foster youth actually go on to get their bachelor's. So.
Okay. And what about Anna and Luna? Like, which?
Sorry, I got a quick
status?
question there.
that's
Catherine,
fine.
you said that the guy has to be a good father. What's a good father to you? What does he have to do to be a good father?
Let me just put that on hold for a sec. We'll come back to Catherine on the good father question because I was thinking about that too, but I want to hear from Anna and Luna too.
Oh, for me, how many kids I want? When I was younger, it was like 10, but now it could be anywhere from 3 to 10. I want at least 3, but I wouldn't really mind having more. But I would have to see first how the first pregnancy went, because if it's really painful, then I'd like for sure want less. But if it wasn't really that bad, then more would be okay.
Okay. What about you, Luna?
I've kind of always been that same way. Like, I want pretty much as many as like realistic. So like, if my partner had a good job and everything, and they can support and be a good father and everything, like I would want as many as realistically possible. I used to say like a number like 3 or something, but just like more than 2 probably. And I actually also, I'm like big in supporting adoption as well. I was actually in foster care. I like aged out of the system. So I was actually adopted after I turned 18 from a foster family. And that's something that I've been around and I've seen, and like I would be very happy to adopt children as well.
Okay. Do you think that what you do for a living right now is going to pose a problem finding a husband and having children? Like looking past your past as an OnlyFans
I
creator?
find no shortage of options.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have guys that are going to be interested, but I'm talking about the kind of guys that you would be interested in marrying.
I mean, I've met.
Because those are two different things, right? Like, there, a lot of the guys that pay money to see your photographs and videos are generally not the kind of guys that you want to be in a marriage or a long-term relationship with.
I mean, like I told the guy that I am currently like talking to and interested in, and he was fine with it.
Interesting.
Yeah, but how long has that been going on?
Yeah.
And I mean, you guys aren't even in a committed relationship, though, are you?
No, we've been talking for maybe like a month, and yeah.
Have you guys slept together yet?
No.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, any guy's going to tell you whatever you want to hear so he can get in your pants. I mean, if it was like, oh, like, you know, I mean, and I got to tell you ladies this. I mean, look, I understand the compassion and I want to adopt and I'm, you know, product of the system and that sort of thing. But I tell you, a guy that's making $500K a year or making enough money to support his wife so she can sit at home and write and not work, that dude does not want to adopt somebody else's kids. That man wants to have his own kids. That kind of guy cares about his genetic legacy.
I would want to have my own kids as well.
Sure, but
same.
But good luck finding it. Like, my thing is, like, guys that are high value and high status, they don't want to adopt kids that they didn't sire. That's just another mouth to feed that bears no DNA, that has nothing when it comes to carrying on their genetic legacy. They don't want to do it. I mean, men who are high testosterone, who make money, who are providers and take care of the household, they want to have their own children. So as I'm listening to this, it's like, you know, he makes X amount of money or enough to support me, and then he also wants to adopt kids that he didn't sire, and he also wants to make sure I don't have to work. Oh, and then we haven't even gotten to the loyalty aspect and the fact that he doesn't step out, or that, you know, he's going to be committed to me and only and just me. I mean, what's happening here right before our very eyes is all the ladies in the panel are building this dream man that doesn't exist.
Just an observation here, because I've heard a lot of women say tonight that they would love to adopt a child, to have the opportunity to give that child something better. But something that I find interesting, and I think there's a lot of people watching right now, you know, in the comments that are probably thinking the same thing, or they might even be chopping it up right now, is that the vast majority of women, when they meet a guy, if he's a single dad, they would prefer to have a guy that doesn't have a child in tow from a prior relationship. But women on the panel tonight are saying that they would love to adopt a child that's not theirs, that's the child of another couple.
Honestly, I
often
feel like
coming with
if a
some problems with
man
it too.
came into my life and he previously had children, I would still be interested to get to know that man because I would take that as an opportunity to see like how he already handles the kids that he has.
No, I
You
hear what
know,
you're saying, but I mean the experience that most men have is that they find that the vast majority of women tend to pass on guys that have kids unless they're incredibly high value, like they're wealthy, they're influential, they've got a lot of status, or good looking, all that sort of stuff. It's just an interesting observation I wanted to pass and sort of like, you know, see what you guys are saying in the comments about stuff like that. But I think that's fascinating. I want to come back to you though, Catherine, because I mean, you're talking about like he has to be the right guy. So paint this picture. Like, what does the right guy look like? Like, what does Mr. Material look like for you?
Well, I would like for him to definitely be someone that takes care of himself because I had an old boss and what she said resonated with me. Like, if you can't take care of yourself, like health wise, whether that's physical health, mental health, spiritual health, she's like, how am I going to be able to confide in you that you're going to also take care of me? And she also does that in like her business operations as well. So like, cause that speaks volumes, you know, yeah. So I'm just going to put it that. So there's many different facets to him taking care of himself. And I'm finding, especially now that I'm getting older, I am definitely noticing the men that have put in the inner work on themselves to overcome things or be able to level up in that way. So I would just want a man to be a good father. Obviously, I really want him to be a good husband or partner. But ultimately, like, I know myself, like, I'll be okay. So that would suck 100% if he dipped out on me. But as long as he's going to be like a good dad, you know? And so, yeah, I'm probably going to want someone that's educated and hardworking, someone that knows how to properly manage their finances or is at least proactively taking the steps to get there. And so I also need someone who is ambitious because I'm incredibly ambitious, where I grew up in the middle of nowhere in a small town. I ended up going to UCLA, huge achievement. I get to be one of those 3% that went on to go get my bachelor's. So I've overcome a lot in my life. And so that would be important to find someone that meets me there on that level. Also, like, how do they treat other people? Like, when we're out and about, you know, I'm very much coming from a small town. Like, I'll chat up the person at the coffee bar. That's just like who I am. And so it's like the little things that ultimately matter the most to me, because someone could be like wealthy, like rich, you know, and good looking, but if they're an asshole, I'm not gonna look at them twice, to be completely honest, because that, like, I could be like very wrong, where I would rather have someone that would be maybe not like the most like financial like high earner, but as long as I know that they like have all of the other aspects to be a good father and a good husband, I would go more after that person than just solely the person off of finances. Because I also live in Orange County. Like, I know like the kids that like grow up with like the Corona Del Mar parents, you know, and like they end up like being like riffraff. Like, it doesn't matter, you know. Finances isn't that all to me. Does it make life much easier? 100%. Completely agree with that. I don't know.
A lot of the qualities that you're describing, though, you're often going to find in men that you might consider to be assholes. And one of the things that I think ladies don't understand is that the sorts of qualities you're looking for, able to, you know, provide for a family and a roof over your head and children and food and all that sort of stuff. Like, one of the struggles that Danielle's dealing with right now with lower income is the guys that are successful. I mean, guys that get shit done in the world, they're generally assholes. It's assholes that get stuff done in the world usually, right? I know that some people don't like to hear that, and they'd rather hear something like kindness and thoughtfulness and giving is usually what gets things done in the world, but it's not. Quite often it's the opposite that accomplishes things. So how do you reconcile like the right amount of asshole with what you want out of a long-term relationship or husband?
Right amount of asshole. So, gosh.
How old are you right now?
I'm 30. So
30,
I feel
okay.
like the only way to appropriately answer that would be then I'd be worried. Like, okay, like maybe he could be like assholes like out in like his business meetings because he's like head honcho president guy, you know, and he's got to slam it down on the board in the boardroom. That's fine. But when he's around me or our children, like I'm gonna need him to turn that off and be like the loving father, because again, if you're into psychology, where I've been diving deep into attachment theory lately, you know, if you have someone that's like really successful in earning, but is like too concerned with like going out and like paying this up, but not spending enough like home at time, like one-on-one, like with the kids, and then kind of goes like touches base on like the whole daycare thing. Like you also have to be aware of like raising a securely attached child as well. So I'm looking at probably too many things, honestly.
Are you getting audio problems, Moff, with hearing?
Yeah, it's almost like the headphones aren't working, or it's coming through your tablet or whatever it is. It sounds like you're like I'm hearing a lot of echo, but no, I can hear you. It's not great, but it's okay.
Is there there's a super chat here from Claudia. She's asking, is there a minimum net worth that you need to have to consider a guy for marriage material? Does money matter?
Is that question directed towards me?
For anyone.
Yeah.
Let's ask anyone, but let's start with Catherine.
Oh Lord. You know, do I want to continue to live in Southern California? Yes. Both of us together are going to need to be able to hit like that price point, because even if I am a stay-at-home mom, I still want something to like help like contribute to the finances, whether that's like an online company, do something with like fitness and nutrition. I don't know. I still want to contribute to that. You know, but if we live in the middle of nowhere in like Alabama, I don't think I'm going to be as concerned about finances. That sounded really bitchy to say. I'm so sorry, everyone that just heard that. Okay, but it depends on like where your geography is, you know? So, God.
All right. Moff, take it away, buddy. You know, what do you got for us? There's a bunch of notes you have.
Yeah, well, I wanted to pose something. So, I mean, this is kind of something off the beaten path, but all the ladies here pretty much want the same kind of guy from based on what we've heard tonight. You want a guy that can make money, a guy that can make it rain, that can provide, that can take care, that can raise good children, that, you know, is alpha and dominant on the outside, but that is soft and caring and nurturing with you or with the kids. And again, you're describing this character and this character of the perfect man. And so we can use a little bit of experience and experiment. And this is, again, one of the things that Luna disagreed on. And I'm happy to have her talk about this, because she has a rebuttal to the idea that 80% of women are chasing after 20% of men. And so it's like, you know, I mean, again, even if we were just using this panel as an example, you've got 3 men and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 women. You know, if all 6 of you women are chasing these 3 men, what are you doing to differentiate yourself, or why would one of us pick you versus the other? Because there's really one of 2 choices you have. You have to increase your value so high, and you have to make yourself so good to convince me or Rich or Spencer to be with you monogamously, or you have to be comfortable sharing us with another woman, another member of the panel. So I'm curious, you know, if all women are going after the same type of men, and we know that there is a ton of men that you find invisible because you don't want a fat guy, you don't want a broke guy, you don't want a guy that's whatever negative attachment theory disorder he may have, etc. So what's your answer to that? I mean, I hate the question bringing to the table, but I mean, how do you differentiate yourself? Like, what values are you bringing that's going to make a guy want to choose you? Anybody can start.
I'll start. It was easy for me to differentiate myself because I know that I'm somebody who's not promiscuous, doesn't do casual sex, casual dating, and is dating for marriage. So one of the things that my gentleman says that stood out to him was my heart, my family values, my feminine energy, as he says. So honestly, if you're going just based on a man who wants a low head count, here in Southern California, like that's very hard to find. So
what's
I think
the low head count? Like, what's the low notch count?
Body count.
No, I know, but what's the low count in your opinion?
I would say like under 5 by 30. If I was a guy, I'd think that's low. That's not even like 1 a year.
Okay.
Is that the same for men and women? You'd use that same number?
No, this is just for women.
Does a man's notch count matter? Question for
Definitely.
For
anybody.
me, it does. Absolutely. Like if you are a playboy, oh no, I would not feel safe because then I would be like, this man constantly has like a wandering eye, you know, and then like I don't want to be like home trying to like sleep at night and, you know, freaking out because that just wouldn't work for me. So yeah, there's a specific number where if like I feel like you have to have it. No, that's
So
that's
at
a turn
what
off.
stage do you feel like it's too much?
Do we have to quantify it? Because I don't really like that.
I mean, numbers are pretty useful.
Numbers
Give us a
are
number.
useful.
It doesn't
But
have to
here's the
be
other
super
thing.
accurate.
I don't.
But
Okay, but here's the other thing. People, it's like they can lie, you know. So like, I'm not even gonna ask that question. But if you give me off the vibes that like you hook up with like a lot of like girls and you have short-term relationships or like you love situationships, if you give me that vibe, like we will not be successful. So I'm not gonna even bother asking that question because there's no way for me to like factually be able to.
Okay,
Like,
so it's more
prove
about a
that.
vibe than an actual number. So if a guy
Yeah.
has a notch count of 100, but he comes off as committed, interested, attentive, responds to your text, takes you out on nice dates, is influential, handsome, drives a nice car, has a cool house, and you don't pick up on the 100 number, it's fine.
Oh, I would be like chatting up friends. Like I would get down to the bottom of that.
Oh, so you would go looking for trouble, basically
No, I
going,
wouldn't.
oh, what's
I would-
wrong with this
no, I
guy? Let's
wouldn't.
try to
That's-
find what's up with him.
No. Well, okay, and here's the other thing. So, say if they did that something like in their younger years, but like the last like 5 years or whatever, like they've really been like trying to separate themselves with like their college days, then like that's like fine like with me. But if they were literally doing that like yesterday, no.
so if they're like Jacqueline's clients and they're like born again virgins, essentially is what I'm hearing.
Oh, I mean, I have no comment.
Interesting. All right. Well, you know, the same question for the rest of the ladies. You know, we got an answer from Jackie.
I feel like that's a hard question because I feel like you're asking the wrong question because I don't agree that 80% of girls are chasing after 20% of men.
Well, that's what the data says. So the match.
But where are
group
they
really-
gathering this data? I would like to know
just
if it
about
is
to tell
Dating
you.
app data.
Yeah.
So dating apps have released the data on how women use the apps and the kind of guys that they swipe right on versus what they swipe left on. And the data has revealed that 80% of the women are basically chasing the top 10% of guys. So, Moff's question essentially is how do you stand out from the crowd of the 80% of women that are chasing the top shelf men?
My personal opinion on that matter is like there's two things we have to think about. For one, okay, there is what women and men say they want. They have like ideal vision in their head. I want a man with money. I want a man with tall. I want this or that. But there's a big difference in usually what they will end up with. And like I think with these statistics, it's probably women saying, "Oh, I prefer this type of guy. I do prefer this." But in reality, will they end up with this type of man? Because if like you guys like to categorize women and men by saying high value man, low value. Okay, like middle
Well, it's a
tier.
placeholder term, Luna. So if women swipe right on 80% of the guys, the placeholder term of a high value guy kind of goes to that category. That's all that is.
Right. Well, I find that in life, okay, a woman may have these preferences, but in life, I find that like a mid-range man will like a mid-range woman will end up with like a mid-range man. Like
it's not happening. It doesn't happen. I'm sorry. It's wrong.
I go outside
if this was
and
no.
see it.
I'd go outside. If you were talking about 1960, 70, 80, maybe, but with the globalization of the sexual marketplace with Instagram, I mean, you have very, very extremely average women that have inboxes that are just full of dicks, that are full of guys asking them, do you want me to fly you out to Dubai? Can I send you a monthly allowance? I mean, you have women going on OnlyFans making more money in a year than star NBA basketball players. There is an epidemic of simping men out there. The average man, does not have a chance with women these days. It's just not the reality. If you're seeing it, you're seeing guys in their 40s and their 50s or 60s maybe, but you're not seeing men in their 20s and 30s that are settling down, getting married with their average counterpart. It's not happening.
I see it, like my classmates who are married. I can think of like several of them who are married, and like their partner is always like nearly always physically equivalent, like in my personal opinion.
Luna, we're talking about statistics and data that have been proven.
Sorry, let's just deal with that for a second, Moff. We dealt with that earlier, though. Most women settle. They don't get their first choice. Women settle for their third, fourth, fifth choice, and that's why.
Why does that matter?
Sorry?
Why does that matter?
Why does that matter? Because women,
divorce rates?
Because women are hypergamous and they need to adore the guy that they're with. So she has to effectively be able to look up to him, to adore him. She can't adore a man that she looks directly at, across, or down to. And that's why a lot of these marriages don't work out.
I've dated men who, like we were talking earlier, like that's the initial attraction matter. Like I've dated I think all
and
of
where
the
are
guys
they today?
that
I
think all of
and where are they today?
I'm not with them now, but
right.
Either way,
so
I don't find
my point.
like all of the relationships that I have had, at least having a relationship is better than none. So
no, it's not. It's not an award to go through a bunch of guys, Luna. Like there's
I'm not
nothing.
saying that it is. I'm saying from like the guy's perspective, like, oh, you're saying like I broke up with them.
This way. I mean, guys in the chat. I don't know if Spencer, if you can do polls now. Like, are you able to run polls?
Doesn't look like it right now.
Boo.
I spot, but we'll ask. Okay, here we go. So start a live poll. So question for the guys. Would you ever state that you are happy that your wife was with 50 guys before?
I never said I think that it's a good thing. You're completely taking it out of context. Well, you're completely taking what I said out of context.
Do guys, when they're hear me out, Luna, hear me out. Do guys, when they get married, ever think to themselves out loud, "Gee, I wish my wife, I wish Luna
obviously
had been
they
with
don't.
50
You don't
more
have
guys
to ask
before."
that question.
Are you going to stop talking so I can complete my sentence, or are you going to keep interrupting me? Hear me out, please. Okay, it's courtesy. Will a guy ever think to himself, "Gee, I wish Luna was with 50 more guys before I had married her"? Do you think that that's something a guy would ever state?
Obviously not, and which is why you don't have to ask that question. Because
that's why I'm asking you to contemplate these things. And
well, I don't think it is good. I don't think it is good if somebody is with numerous partners. I'm just stating that, okay, yes, from the guy's perspective, you'll say, she broke up with that man, therefore she's example of the statistic of the guy who doesn't end up with that type of woman. But if you're saying from that men's
to be more
perspective,
discerning in their taste, though, with their dating.
What?
Wouldn't it be prudent for women to be more discerning in their taste, to be more reserved in their taste?
That would be great. I would love it if women could all do that. Yeah.
Okay, so why are we hearing stories from the ladies on the panel about the amount of guys that they've been through then?
Well, the ideal world of women becoming more prudent is separate from reality.
But you
I would say you have a lot of women on this panel that have said they haven't been with a lot of men, or that they would like to not be with a lot of men before marriage.
Yeah, we've heard that.
So I do feel like also you did take Luna's comments out of context. There was not a need to make a poll about that.
She's talking about this notion that like you're wrong about this because I've got all this experience with guys, and it's like, yeah, and where are they? They're actually gone now. They're not a part of your life.
That's not what I'm saying, though. My point was that from the man's perspective, like viewing my case, they will say something like, "Oh, well, you broke up with the guys, so therefore you're proving that you're not with those type of guys." But in reality, like if from the male's perspective, being in a relationship with me at one time gives you a vastly greater chance of like ending up with X woman than if she completely rejects you from the start. Like that's from the man's perspective.
No, I don't understand what point you're making, Luna. You're saying that how is a man who's in a relationship, like what is a guy's in a relationship with you increases his value? I don't understand.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Not at all what I'm saying.
Can you clarify?
I'm saying imagine you're a man and you're wanting to date a woman and you're saying, oh, what should I look for in a woman? Blah, blah, blah. and or like say you're concerned, you're like, oh, most girls don't like short guys. Well, I'm really short. Oh no, what can I do about that? Like, what can I do about it? There's nothing you can do about your height, or in theory. So say you are thinking about women, you're like, oh, do women really date short guys or not? Well, I have indeed dated a short guy, so if you were the short guy, you should be glad there's a higher chance, is what I'm saying. It's not saying like, oh, I'm gonna completely denounce this whole group by saying like, I don't know, I just hear the argument that says,
Yeah, Luna, we did this
I'm
last week. I don't know why we're still on this. We did this whole thing about generalizations and how your personal anecdotal experience doesn't speak against, or nor does it debunk the data that shows that the majority of women find the majority of men unattractive. Just because you've dated a short guy doesn't mean that the vast majority of women out there have also or would also date short guys. But we already
but
went
it
through
doesn't
this.
mean,
Why are we going back onto this? Why are we going back through this?
okay, like I said, there's two things. There's what a person wants and what they will accept.
Correct.
Those are
Women are
completely two different
terrible at
things.
being honest with what they want. Women's stated preferences and what they actually go for and their revealed preferences are often the complete opposite.
Yeah,
Women are
that's true.
notorious. Yeah, it's true. So why would I ever listen to what a woman says when she tells me what a man should want in dating?
I mean, the very fact that
What,
you're not
here
with
you
any
go
of these
again.
guys that you've outlined as being ideal proves the point that they're not ideal. Otherwise,
Well,
you would still be with them.
who is ideal? What? Nobody probably in reality is ideal. Not a
What we
single
were talking
person.
about earlier before we kind
All
of went
of
on
the
the word salad rant
statistics
was,
and characteristics that all the
Yeah.
women have talked about tonight that said what they want in an
I've
ideal
never
man. That's
seen
what
an
that
ideal
is.
man. I've never encountered an ideal man. I don't think that's a real thing. I think you'll get what you accept. You'll accept what you'll accept.
so
If that,
what's the strategy
it's
then?
not
Like
the
just to go
case.
through guys until what?
Hmm?
So what's the strategy then if the ideal man doesn't exist? Just to keep going through guys, just to have like a rotation?
I have a guy that I'm interested in, and I'm gonna keep talking to him, and I'm interested in long-term relationship.
Okay. Is he
I'd
your
say the
ideal guy?
What's
strategy
stopping
and
you?
also answering kind of what sets
Hang
you
on a sec,
apart.
Danielle. Hang on a sec, Danielle. Luna, is he your ideal guy? Like, does he tick off all the boxes for you?
Who checks off boxes?
The guy that you're talking to.
Are you trying to say it's like, is he ideal? Maybe not in every
Yes.
single. He's not ideal in every single regard, but in many of them, he exceeds my expectation.
Okay.
I don't know. I didn't hear much of a rebuttal for.
I don't think we got to the answer of any of that,
hypergamy.
Moff.
I mean,
You know what?
I
Throw
don't think
that,
you did.
throw
Hold on.
that
I want
super
to.
chat up on the screen and let's get that.
Hold on. Which one?
Post.
All right, I want to come back to what Danielle was saying
Good
though, really
question.
quick before we do that, because I don't want to. First of all, guys, if you're going to put in a super chat, we said at the beginning of the show it's $20 if you want it on screen. So, but Danielle, you had something you wanted to chime in before we switch to a new topic and a new subject.
Yeah, go ahead, Danielle.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we also as women have to acknowledge that we are probably never gonna be ideal. You know, there's no such thing as perfect, and so part of a marriage or a partnership is like acknowledging I'm not perfect, and this man completes me, and he has strengths that I don't have, and we can work together as a team.
Here's the problem I have with that, though. For whatever reason, women have created this narrative in their head that men and what they're looking for, it's incredibly complicated, and men want this long laundry list of things and traits and characteristics out of the women that they want to date or marry, and it's just not true. Women are the ones that have grocery lists. I mean, we heard Catherine go on her soapbox earlier about he's got to do this, he's got to do that, he's got to be a kick-ass guy, and I got to. Like, there's all of these things that women have these laundry lists of guys that they or things they want out of a guy, and most guys want a couple of things. They want you to be fit and be sexually attracted to you. They want you to be pleasant to be around. They want you to be useful and supportive. That's it. Feminine, fit, friendly, fun. That's really it, right? So degrees, level of intelligence, IQ, hardworking, money, guys don't care about any of that stuff. So I don't know how this has infected it's feminism really, but a lot of women's brains have been infected with this idea that you have to chase some crazy standard when you really don't. Like, it's so easy to make a man happy. It's so easy just to do those things. So, I mean, this idea of like, oh, like, well, I'm never going to be perfect and I'm not the ideal. It's like, I mean, if you can't be an ideal woman in 2024, the bar is so damn low. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
What do men want? Anybody can chime in. I'd love to hear from the panel.
Yeah.
What is it that you think that men want?
Go ahead, Jackie.
I can't.
Say it. Let's hear it.
To be honest, my experience is that men want a mommy that they can fuck. However, my perspective is that that's also a majority, but the second most common is that they want somebody who is supportive, who takes away the stress at home from their lives so that they can focus on work and providing and making their dent in the universe, as Rich says. And somebody who's super affectionate. And it's not something that is common. It's not something that I see in women anymore. They interrupt men. They're not feminine. They don't let him basically stand out in the ways that he's trying to show up in the world. And they're more of something that is a hurdle instead of something that complements his life.
Can you sort of expand on what you mean by a mommy that you can bang?
So I definitely see parallels between a man wanting a woman to cook and clean for him, just as their mom made their life easier. And as you gentlemen say, like, is useful and helpful. So I totally get it. I totally get the parallel, because women also want so much of their father in their husband, right? So I get it. I'm not saying it as a bad thing. Gentlemen love to put their nose in a woman's chest. It's comforting. That's very parallel to their breastfeeding early experience. I think a lot of this stuff is natural. I didn't mean it as a bad thing.
Maria, what do men want?
I can't speak for all men, but I feel like, men do want a feminine woman, someone who adds on to the peace that they've created in their lives. But yeah, I can't, I feel like a lot of men go for looks nowadays. And someone I agree with Jacqueline that most men, based off of my experience, they do want a mommy or someone who does things for them that their mom continues to do for them, but someone that they have a sexual relationship with. So yeah, I did want to answer that question on how I can differentiate myself, but things kind of just got heated. So we can always come back to that.
Please.
This kind of just ties in to kind of just my idea on what dating has come to. And I feel like the problems with dating nowadays is that it stems from the dating apps, I feel like, because the dating apps, you see a whole bunch of these people and you can swipe left or swipe right, and just going based off of that, and it's mostly based off of looks. I feel like that kind of gives an illusion that we have all these options, when in reality that is not true. I feel like no one can ever say that oh, I have all these options, or I'm not worried about this or that, because I know that I know I'm physically attractive enough to pull the guy that I want. But that's not really true. If you're someone of high value, you kind of just lay out everything that you want in a partner, but also make sure that you hold yourself to that same standard. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I differentiate myself. I'm very much set on who I am and my goals, and I want someone ideally who's going to add on to the piece that I've created in my life, or someone who is going to complement it, so that we could
But Maria,
build.
what are those specific things? Like you say, like, oh, I built this, or I've acquired that. What are we talking about specifically, though?
Not just like materialistic things. I do want, the number one thing that I do want to work on is generational wealth, because that's something that I like never had. So that's why I'm very like hardworking, and that's what kind of makes me, I guess, masculine, is because I like to work and I like to make money. But
What do you do for a living?
I work in bottle service, and I'm a college student majoring in communication.
Yeah. So what's your plan when you get out of school to make generational wealth?
So when I get out of school, I do want to work in the public relations industry. And then from there, I could start my own business, because I do want to be an entrepreneur.
What kind of business do you want to run?
So right now, my network is a lot of people who are in the nightlife industry and the restaurant industry. So in the future, I hope to, start my own like restaurant or nightclub. But I also want to create like other businesses, and like the businesses that I want to start are businesses for women, like give resources to women who are in need.
Okay, let's come back to that. Moff, we were dealing with the whole what do you bring into the table sort of thing.
Right. I feel like
Go ahead.
Oh.
Okay.
No, please.
No, we'll come back to that in a minute.
Okay,
Maria.
yeah.
Who else did you want to hear from, Moff?
I don't know if everybody went or not. I mean, I think Catherine, I don't know, she went on mute and off camera, so I pulled her. No, let's get these chats. Like, there's something that got put on twice, so I wanted to bring this up, and this is a question for all the ladies. So, ladies, can you each answer this question? Were you taught by your parents to be wives/mothers, or more to focus on your education/career? So, in your upbringing, which were you pushed in any one direction, and if so, which one?
Let's just start with Maria, and we'll sort of go around. Maria, go ahead.
Sorry, can you repeat that question? I was kind of like skimming over like the comments.
Just toss it back up on the screen.
Were you taught by your parents to be more towards wiving and mothering, or to focus more on your education/career? Were you pointed in each or any of those directions, and which one, if so?
I feel like I wasn't necessarily pointed into like one direction, like towards more one direction. I feel like my mom is a stay-at-home mom, and she took like very good care of us. And my dad was the provider and worked and made all the money. But however, they did encourage me and all my siblings. I have 2 other sisters and 1 brother, but encouraged each of us to prioritize education. So they did want me to be they gave me the freedom to be my own person. Like, they didn't want me to be only a wife or a mother. Like, I still want to be that, but they allowed me to, be my own person.
So we'll go with both.
And
both.
I want to add something really quick before we go around, but I want to kind of, I'll make this really short, but like, Maria, we talked about at the beginning of the show, like, you're very much traditional. You're very much of a traditional mindset when it comes to relationships, but everything you said for the last 5 to 7 minutes is all about how you want to be this entrepreneur and you want to make a bunch of money. I mean, how do you reconcile those two things? How are you going to be this boss babe, generational wealth garnering woman and still have a traditional relationship?
Right. So I kind of worded that like differently in the beginning before we started the live. I'm more for like traditional values, but not exactly, especially because like that's not really realistic right now. We live in such a modern world, and I do want to, be able to take care of my children and like raise them, but I do want to like have my own businesses, and like I'm not exactly sure how I'm gonna do that yet, but I'm hoping that my partner allows me to be that person who is motivated and determined to accomplish like whatever I dream of.
So you said it's not realistic today, but let's say you did find that guy that could totally provide for you. You didn't have to make any of the money. Would you still be chasing after building these businesses?
Yes, I still would, but you know, if like for example, I meet a guy and let's say like we are not married yet, but I did get pregnant and he makes enough money to support me and my child, I am going to prioritize my child and raising my child first before I can start doing other things. It's kind of just like how you balance things out.
Okay, let's put the question to the others on the panel so we can sort of get through it. Again, the question was, you need to answer the question, were you taught by your parents to be wives, mothers, or to chase education careers? Questions for you, Lynn.
For me, I would say growing up, I had like financial problems, and that my parents emphasized heavily education and career, probably more so than family. I mean, I was taught growing up that family is like the most important thing in life, but I think I was more like stressed and pushed towards career,
Towards
and especially
money.
because I was homeschooled as well, and so I
Okay.
think education was the
Were you
most
taught
important.
culinary skills by your mom?
My mother was never in the picture in my life, but my father did teach me to cook. Yes.
So you were homeschooled by your dad, and how did he work and make money if nobody was taking care of you?
He always had online jobs. He
Oh,
took care
okay.
of me.
And what happened to your mom?
She wanted to go have fun and go party instead of take care of kids, so she left when I was 11 months old.
Oh, okay. Sorry to hear that. Anna, so same question to you. You know, did your parents sort of push you, and I guess the same for Danielle because your sister. So did your parents push you guys both to chase career education, or more like how to be a mom and a wife?
Go ahead, Anna.
Well, it was actually our dad who pushed us to get an education, and he was trying to get me to be a flight attendant or work for the job that he works at. And I'm still considering both of those. But we also did learn like house skills too, because we have so many younger siblings.
Mhm.
We're kind of parents too to our younger siblings. So it's just a balance of both.
Got it. Okay. Is Catherine there, or is she gone?
Hi.
Just off
That's
mute. You just, I
Oh.
just can't see you. Are you on like a different tab or a different?
No.
Okay,
Yeah, you
we
can-
just can't see.
It's
We can.
fine.
let
I mean,
me-
the camera's
let me
off. I
take-
mean, the same question. Like,
Oh,
did your
just-
parents push you more towards career education, or did they put you more towards, being a wife and a mother?
I'm still supposed to be answering this. So my grandparents, specifically my grandma, was very education forward, where she always said that knowledge is power and education will open doors for you. So that was primarily her focus. I don't recall, I mean, their whole thing in regards to like relationships is like find a good man, that's like gonna show through like his actions that he's a good man. So yeah.
It's interesting because I've heard, from everybody pretty much now, and it's like the theme is go and make sure that you can take care of yourself, whether that's through an education, through creating a business, through making money. It's all about becoming a strong, independent woman. Do you think that that's what guys want? Like, so there's this notion that certain researchers have concluded to, where they say that men are success objects to women and that women are beauty objects to men. Do you all agree with that, or do you disagree with that?
I believe that can be true a lot.
Well, let's hear from the disagreement. So who disagrees with that statement?
I would
Okay.
disagree.
Okay, so you don't think that women are beauty objects to men? No? Can you expand on that?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, I feel like in our culture that's the case. And there would probably be a lot of men who would view women that way. There'd probably be a lot of women who would view men as an object for success, but obviously that's not the case for every person. And I know a lot of really good men And I know a lot of girls who are looking for a real relationship and not just, you know, a guy who's loaded and can help them succeed and make money on their own.
Does anybody else disagree with that statement that women are beauty objects and men are success objects?
I do too.
Oh, you do? Okay, go ahead.
Oh, well, she basically said it, but I mean, I don't view guys that way. So there must be other people that don't, but I can't speak for other people. If that's what the studies say, then I'm sure that's what most people think. But for me personally, I don't think that way.
What do you like, Moff? This is taking us back to the whole reputation management thing. You want to talk about
Always
that for a little bit? Yeah.
Well, it's not only that, but it's female solipsism in a nutshell, right? I mean, we can sit here and talk all day. We talked about this last week too with Luna. I mean, we could talk about these generalizations and how if we have even data, I mean, and even Danielle even said in her opening sort of remarks, it was like, well, I think society is like that. I think a cultural is like that. And I think there's a lot of men out there, but not me. Well, we hear so much of these anecdotes, and I think when we talk about this, like, I don't know why this stuff gets painted in a negative light. It's perfectly fine for women to view men for what they can bring to the table success because of how we know about how women judge men for relationships and marriage and protection and children and everything. They want a guy that can make money because money equals I can get resources. They want a guy that's in shape. They want a guy that's successful because success equals power. Power equals protection and providing and paternity, right? Men like beauty. Men see women primarily as beauty objects because beauty has a strong correlation to fertility, which means bearing a lot of children, which is good for men because we want to spread seed. We want to continue to pass on our genetic legacy. But it's so funny when we ask questions like this, it always has these negative connotations. It's like, oh, well, I don't see men as success objects. If he was, homeless, living under a bridge, as long as he was nice to me, that'd be good enough. And this is another example of what we were talking about earlier, where we have these stated preferences versus revealed preferences, right? So, it's you can be honest. It's okay. But it seems that there's always this idea of I'm the exception to the rule, and I don't know.
Yeah, the conversation gets really interesting and deep, when you sort of don't hold back. So if I can put it that way, let me ask you this question then: who should lead in a relationship, the man or the woman?
The man.
Okay.
I think the man.
Does everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, in what aspect, like, are the men that like, there's could be like several different topics on this. Like when it comes to like the family, like household, like inside the household, like the man also still runs things. Is that like across the board that the man's supposed to make all the calls? Because I think on different situations,
Yeah, pretty much across the board. I mean, I think that
final authority.
Yeah, like I think that women should have some discretion when it comes to, man's out of the house and there's the children are hungry, feed them, right? Like you don't need to check with him. Is it okay to feed the kids lunch? Sort of thing, right? Like it's not about him running it all the time, but in a relationship, who should lead the relationship? Should it be equal? Should the woman lead it? Should the man lead it? Does anybody
Luna,
think
you had a problem with this last week. Luna had a problem with men making rules last week. Do you want to touch on that?
Okay.
Did you want to talk about that again this week?
I think that it is fine and good, and for me personally, it's preferable for like the man to be in like a leadership position and say maybe make like the final decisions or lead the way basically. But I mean, I think that my opinion should be considered and it should be discussed and communicated. And we talked about it last week, the whole who will make the compromise. And I think it's fine for women to compromise with the man. If the man wants to do something, the woman doesn't. I think you just need to figure that out per individual case.
What was the issue that we had last week, Mo?
But I just find that whenever you make rules, we were talking about rules, I find that if, say you're the man and you say, okay, I have the authority, I think that you can do this, this, and that, you cannot do this and that. And I think that mentality can become harmful. I'm not saying it's always harmful, but I'm saying it can become harmful because it could be micromanaging, to where say you're the woman and you are so worried you're not even sure if you're following all the rules correctly, if your man's going to be angry at you because you're not pleasing him precisely. And like, but I mean, I think it's just more, like I said, individual case. I think some people are more nitpicky than others. Some are more controlling than others. But I guess initially, I think it was the Moff was just like kind of like reminding me of this like controlling personality of like others that I see. I can see that personality type in others.
Let's get the one thing clear, because we keep coming. I can't stand this aspect when we get into these conversations where we treat every human being in every situation like it's so different from the others. Let's get one thing clear. Women are only going after a certain type of man. They're going after a man who can get things done. They're going after a high testosterone man that leads, that says, this is how this is going to go. You have no time or patience for a man that can't be decisive, who can't get things done, who won't lead you in a relationship and won't take on that role. So all of these guys are like, oh, yeah, I guess you can go out to the club and I guess you can go out dancing with your girlfriends. Those dudes are out because you're not looking at them anyway. So that only leaves one category of men, and a man that knows how to lead a relationship, and he understands that most women, when left to their own devices, make terrible decisions when it comes down to what they do in their free time, who they spend their time with, what passions they choose to do, with the way they talk about spending their free time. And a man needs to be in that leadership position. And a man that's got it going on and a man that has options is absolutely going to make rules for that relationship. And that's just the way that it is. I mean, I don't know how much more clear I can make it. But men who command authority in relationships do so because they're the kind of guy that you want. You want this masculine high T man making all this money that is just going to let you do whatever the hell you want. He's going to let you go show your ass on camera on OnlyFans, or he's going to let you go and be an entrepreneur instead of taking care of your kids. I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm taking crazy pills on this show. If that's the man you want, this is what you're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, to Moff's point, and it's interesting because I hear life's complicated. I'm talking to a guy. I'm in a relationship. I broke up, whatever. But it's like not a single one of you has made it clear that you understand the wants, needs, and desires of the guy that you want to be with, unless you want to keep rotating through losers, right? If your plan is to rotate through losers or to be single, then you should keep doing what you're doing because it's definitely the way to go. But if you want to lock down some guy that's going to commit to you, I heard things like, I don't want to be with an F-boy. I want to make sure he doesn't have a high notch count, that he's committed, that he's like father, husband type of material. But I'm not hearing anything from the gals on the show tonight that's making it clear that you're the kind of guy that this man would want to choose. Or sorry, that you're the kind of gal that this man would want to choose, sort of thing, right? Like, no guy that's worth 8 figures gives a shit about your idea for your business. He doesn't care, right? Like, the number one thing that he's going to care about is your past, because your number one thing that you care about is this a good man? What does his future look like? Can he make money? Does he know how to solve problems? Is he competent? Does he have a good social network, right? Like, you're looking at his future, and he's looking at you going, well, what's this chick's past like? Are my kids going to see pictures of her asshole on the internet when they're 7 years old and their, elementary school, friends are asking them about that kind of stuff? Are they going to hear about mom being promiscuous and being through, a whole bunch of guys? I haven't heard a single woman tonight say that it's really important for me to preserve my value.
No, I would agree with that.
Right? It's really important for me to understand culinary skills so I can feed this man when he comes home after putting out fires all day long and doing stuff. You don't need 2 cook like chefs in the kitchen, just like you don't need 2, drivers in the driver's seat out there, sort of thing. I think that one of the things that we've lost in the world today is the notion that there's blue jobs and there's pink jobs, and that men are really good at blue jobs and women are really good at pink jobs. And we should accept, the differences and promote them as much as possible. But the idea of like chasing careers and open up restaurants and nightclubs, I don't want anything to do with a chick that wants to run a fucking nightclub.
Someone will.
No, most guys would not give a flying
And
fuck,
that's
to be honest
and
with
Maria,
you.
but the point is though, the point we're trying to
And
make.
I'm not saying that just to pick
kind
on
of
you,
guy.
but it's like, yeah, go ahead,
What
Mom.
we keep coming back to is the kind of guy that is going to be okay taking care of kids while you go and chase your entrepreneurial dreams, or staying home, or giving you the money for your startup, or whatever it might be. Yes, there are guys out there that will do that, but the reason they'll do that is because they don't have any other options and they don't have any other choice otherwise. Guys will make concessions for women that they never would have gotten a chance with otherwise. You're a very good looking woman. I can obviously see why you're in nightlife. But it's that you get attention from these high level, high value guys every day that I'm sure. But somebody that's got his own thing taken care of, the kind of guy that you're going after, and the kind of guy that most women are going after, especially even ones on this panel, they're not setting their time aside and their obligations and duties in their business aside so you can neglect having children and go be an entrepreneur. That's the thing we keep trying to drive home with the women that come on the show, is like, yes, there are men out there that will let you do whatever you want in a relationship. There's guys that will lay down and be a doormat for you. It's not the guy you want. You think you want that. It all comes back to women thinking they want this guy that's going to let them have free reign, do whatever they want to do, make decisions, do what they think is best for them, not draw any boundaries. And then they wonder why they don't respect their husband, or they wonder why they're with this weak loser that never tells them no, that never draws any boundaries and says, no, you're not going to do that. You have obligations, or you have children to take care of, or I have needs as the leader and the man in the relationship and as the provider. I know it's not an easy thing, because on one hand, it's like, well, what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to settle for losers? No. Well, what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to not go after the high value men? Well, it's something you kind of have to decide for yourself. But this idea that women can have everything, you can have the alpha dominant guy who's rich and knows how to get things done in this world, at the same time lets you run free and chase every little vocation and dream instead of doing things that are going to move the relationship forward. It's all a fantasy. It's fairy dust. It's fugazi. It doesn't exist. And that's just and again, I don't expect anybody to listen to this, and it's okay. I mean, it's perfectly fine. We've done this show enough times to know what the answer is going to be, but that's just the way we see it.
I agree with you on a lot of that stuff.
Good, because it's true. I mean, ladies, I've talked to lots of very successful guys, athletes, C-suite guys, politicians, like very, very successful men, good-looking men, tall men, rich men. And the sorts of stuff that you're all describing, they want nothing to do with it. Zero, zip, zilch. All right. They entertain far better, more suited options than like the notion of, I want to chase whatever, I want to climb this degree, frame it, I want to get this business going, money, chasing. Like, the thing that women miss today that's incredibly important, that I think is probably one of the most overlooked things, is the preservation of your value. Like the whole stuff that Jackie has to do with these, with these chicks that have to become born again virgins, that might work in their head, but you can't avoid the consequences of your past, right? You can pretend that they don't exist, but you can't avoid that they exist. And I think that it's a great lie that people believe today, that women should be doing all of these things for everybody. Like, let's adopt children and let's get a nightclub running and run a nail salon and get a degree and be a mother and learn how to cook. And how the fuck are you going to do all that and do the one thing that you're put on this planet to do, which is have children? You can't. And I think that you've all been lied to and fed this bullshit narrative that you can get away with whatever you want for as long as you want, as long as there's some guy out there that'll look past it. And you're right. There's loads of nerds out there that'll look past all of this crap. There's loads of them. but they're not the kind of guy that you're going to want to be with into perpetuity. They're not the kind of guy that you're going to want to commit to for the next 60 years of your life. Right? Do y'all understand what I'm saying here? These are some incredibly frustrating conversations and stories that I'm hearing tonight.
I guess I have a lot to say, but I know we only have 5 minutes, so I don't really want to.
No, we can keep going. I mean, I can go for
Yeah.
another 30 minutes if you guys want to keep ripping.
I can go to 10.
After
Go ahead.
you've agreed to some of this more stuff, Danielle and Anna, would you guys or would you girls still say the same thing about like disagreeing with the fact that men view women as sex objects and women view men as success objects? Or would you still disagree with that? Or has that changed? Do you still think it's culture that paints that image?
I think it's mostly culture, yeah.
Yeah. Me too.
We know it's not culture, though. It's especially the Dr. David Buss Lab has done a big study on this that looked at, I believe, 37 different cultures it was. And they found the same thing across every single culture. Men wanted the same things and women wanted the same things. And even if we look at primates, male primates are more interested in casual sex than female primates are. So is culture affecting primates as well?
Where are they getting that data from?
Yeah.
The Evo
Tons of
Psych Lab,
studies that have
David
been
Buss
done
is the
on it.
most renowned researcher on the topic.
I agree that
You
there's
should look him up
certain
sometime.
things.
He's got some great books.
I will look them up if you send it to me.
David Buss, very easy name to remember. Dr. David Buss. You don't even have to read his books. You can watch some podcast interviews. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
So what's the disagreement here that we're missing on?
I agree that like you mentioned something about the extreme of a homeless man living under a bridge. You know, I'm not going to be attracted to someone who has no ambition. So I guess I can see what you're saying to a certain level, but not like, oh, all I see this man as is a tool for success. And I don't think that all men do or should view women as purely a sex object. There's
Biology,
so much deeper
though.
levels to it than that.
Can't do anything
Yeah,
about it. I
biology.
mean, it's how we're hardwired.
Not just as that. It might be one of the benefits of a relationship.
What men consider in women is primarily physical attractiveness.
But I mean, we also hear narratives today that men can get pregnant, right? And this is repeated throughout social media everywhere, like these fucking lies that keep coming up over and over again. And we need to get past the nonsense of, you know, pretending that it doesn't matter if he's successful and it doesn't matter if she's beautiful and you're not allowed to fat shame because that's mean, right? Like, this is the reality of the world. This is how things work. And one of the things that I'm hearing on the show tonight and prior shows, there's a lot of dancing around and word salads being manufactured that aren't aligned with biology, that aren't aligned with your imperative. And it's like this confusion. I don't know if it's confusion. I don't know if it's ignorance, but this, whatever this happens to be, does not serve the ladies, does not serve the men. We have a lot of confused men out there, and we deal with the guys all the time. That's a separate show, but tonight's the show for the ladies, and it's like a lot of the stuff that I'm hearing here, it's insane. Jackie, like, what do you think about all this? Like you coach women. You know, this is part of your business, is what I understand. Like, what do you have to say to the ladies tonight?
I mean, I think men want women who are going to be great moms and wives. And if a woman feels that she has some calling on her life or wants, you know, has a special purpose, then that's great. But I don't think that anything should come before raising your children and being, you know, first and foremost, your husband's wife. I think that that's the most impactful way, no matter what you feel your God-given purpose is. I think it's more important to have an intact family because that truly is becoming the future of the world.
No, yeah, and I agree. I feel like one of like the biggest problems nowadays is that men and women feel like they're in competition with each other when we fail to recognize that we need each other, you know. And I'm actually very set on my family values, but that doesn't take away from the other goals that I want to achieve in my life. And that's what I was trying to say earlier.
Yeah, and that's an inherent conflict that exists within you, though, Maria, because you come from a conservative household. Your parents didn't want you dating until a certain age, but in the next breath, it's also make money. Don't rely on anybody else. You have to, you have to depend on yourself and I get it, because there's a lot of men out there that aren't capable of being fathers, that aren't capable of being men in a long-term relationships and doing all the things that's required of them. So, nature of, whores a vacuum. And it's like, I get why women have this notion, but there's still a lot of very good men out there that you can put yourself in the right room, and it's not in bottle service. It's not on OnlyFans. It's not in any of those areas. You're like, women complain about there's not enough good men out there, and then they routinely put themselves in places and rooms where there's no good men.
Right. But like, I don't really have like those complaints, like I know that I'm still young, and like,
how long do you think beauty lasts?
I feel like beauty is subjective. So like, you can't really put.
Let's be honest here, because beauty does have an expiry date. So how long do you think beauty lasts?
Well, I don't know. Like,
this is something, you gals should know. This is something that you should contemplate, because as Spencer was talking about earlier, from the research lab cross-culturally around the world, regardless of religion, culture, continent, men routinely select women that are about 22, 23 years old as the most beautiful women. So your beauty is on the decline after about 23. Part of the reason why most women get married around the age of about 29 now, 29, 30, is because they reach that epiphany where they're like, fuck, it's going to change from a 2.9 to a 3 something. And I'm running out of time. I'm seeing my friends getting married. My eggs are drying up. They start running through all these ideas in their head, and they realize that they've wasted a good part of their life. Right. So, I want to ask the question again, at what point do you think your beauty is perishable?
No, like, yeah, I do agree. Like, once a woman hits like 30, like they're just like not at their like peak anymore. But
does anybody disagree with the notion that beauty goes on the decline after about 23?
I disagree. I think once again, it depends on the individual. I think some women peak at like 35. Like physically, I think they look the most beautiful, say like 35. But some
peak at 35?
Yes, I think I've seen some women who do look most beautiful when they are 35.
But Luna, we don't care what women find beautiful. Women should only be concerned with what men find beautiful, because women aren't going to be dating you. Like, this is, again, like, my God, man, like, we are just in a bizarro world tonight. I don't know how reports, studies, everything really quick. I got to get this out. Everything that we know about what men are attracted to, all of the data, all of the statistics point towards men, regardless of age, whether they're in their teens all the way to their 70s and 80s. They find women in their early 20s most attractive. I'm not saying there aren't some ugly 20-year-olds out there. I'm not saying there aren't some good-looking 35-year-old women out there. But for whatever reason, we have such an issue with living by reality in the majority and the 80 percentile, the 85 to 90th percentile, and we want to live in the 10th percentile. I don't understand. We want to live by the exception as if that's the rule, and it's just not the case. And this is how women get messed up.
Screen. We got Christina Freeland on the left in her early years, and on the right at 56. Is she as beautiful on the right as she is on the left?
But she also didn't take care of herself, so it's going to come back to that point. Like, what are you doing to take
Set
care
aside
of
the
yourself
weight
and value yourself?
Set aside the weight. Is she as beautiful on the right as she is on the left?
No. I think the
Not
answer
even
to that's
close.
obvious.
Not even close. It's not even the same ballpark. So the point that women don't seem to understand is that your looks are on the decline after the age of 23. Doesn't matter what you tell yourself, what your girlfriends tell you, girl, you're beautiful, stop listening to those guys, blah, blah, blah. You can tell yourself and tell each other whatever you want, but it's the men that are judging you. And that's the way that it's always been. right? And if you think in your head, because one of the things that I heard Maria say earlier is that, I've got lots of time, I'm still young, sort of thing, until you don't, like until you burn through your youth, and it moves fast, trust me.
Yeah, but then like that's not fair to like put that upon like Maria, because what if she gets the idea that she needs to like go out and get like married like now, and then she picks a shit
Right.
guy, and then ends up having kids and then divorce later on in life. Like if she wants to take her time to make sure she finds someone
Sure.
of value, I think it's
Sure.
better to play the long game versus just like pinholing yourself to be like, got to figure it out
Right.
by 25.
Well,
You
So- I mean,
that's
I have
a
2
false
years until
dichotomy.
my
Okay, so let me put it to you
BBA
this way, right? So how many tries at the right guy do you think that you gals have, right? Because let's be honest, right? Fertility is on the decline after the age of 30. You run into geriatric type of pregnancies well into your 30s for sure. Not that, like, we'll have women in the chat that'll be like, I had my 7th child, when I was 44. Fine, cool, awesome. It worked out for you in that one scenario. I also know loads of people that have spent $70,000 on IVF to try to have kids at 41, and it didn't even pan out, or they ended up with an autistic kid or something like that, right? So let's be honest, like fertility does go on the decline. So assuming that and I'll be very, very generous here, and let's say 40, right? So between 20 and 40. So you've got 20 years. How many stabs at finding the right guy do you gals think that you have? Has anybody?
I would argue
contemplated
that you should only really date if you're serious about the person.
Yeah.
So then in that case, you would hope that it would just be the one.
Right, but the question again is, how many goes at finding the right guy do you girls think that you have? Right? Like we've got, like Catherine, you're almost 30, right?
I'm 30.
You're 30. So how many more tries do you think you have at finding the right guy to have that family?
Oh, I could give like a whole like 5-minute answer to that. So I'll keep
Go
it
ahead.
concise.
We got lots of time. Go ahead.
No. I mean, it does get more difficult, absolutely, like as you get older. Because like there's like the whole like joke where it's like when you're dating in your 30s, you're like going to the thrift store basically. So yeah, it gets complicated. But honestly, it's just gonna depend, like, have you like learned from also all of your dating experiences in the past, and like what didn't work for you? Like what are you trying different to like narrow down like you finding like your partner as well? And like it's also gonna like what kind of like socioeconomic background do you yourself come from? Like what like location throughout the United States are you in as well? So, I mean, obviously, I need to be very wise with the men that I date in the future, 100%. I can't just be like wasting my time to just be like with someone. So, yeah, there is a time element. I do recognize that. Like, that is science. I work in healthcare. So, yeah. I mean, I'm not disagreeing.
So I heard
do agree.
4 words there in that word salad. Complicate life, justify why.
Pardon?
That's what all people do, men and women. It's not just the gals. But the question was, how many goes do you think at finding the right guy do you have? And you didn't answer the question.
How many goes? Because
I'll tell you what my opinion
3.
is. I mean, we're not going to get probably 1 or 2. Probably
Okay, I said 2.
1 or 2 at best, right?
Right.
By the time you're at the age of 30, you've probably got 1 or 2, tries, excuse me, at finding the right guy, because you've got the honeymoon phase, which is probably going to be like 6 or 12 months at best. And then reality is going to set in, and then you're going to see whether or not he likes you enough to want to continue and you like him enough to want to continue. And then there could be a division in that part then and there, or it could be in 4 years down the road. Like, you've legit probably got 1 or 2 stabs at finding a husband and having children at the age of 30. Around the age of 23, maybe 3 or 4, right? Because there's going to be about 4-year cycles, right? When you're dating, to figure out if it's the right person. Then you settle down, you get the house, you move in, then you start, trying for kids. You don't always, get lucky right away in the first month or even in the first year. I know people that have tried for years at, the age of like 32, and they still don't get it right. And it maybe happens 4 years down the road, they have a miscarriage. So there's all these sort of like insane variables and stuff that sort of, get in the way. And the point of being here, again, is, to find a guy and have that family, the relationship, the kids, and all that sort of stuff. I think you need to be a hell of a lot more intentional about it, and a lot more focused on what matters that like guys will dismiss you just like women, will dismiss men, but the top shelf ones that you want will dismiss you if there's red flags. And there's red flags out there with a lot of women, including many of you on the panel tonight. Right? Like it's something to really think about. But I mean, you keep telling yourself, oh, I want to adopt kids. Guys don't give a fuck about that. A man that wants to have children doesn't want to raise an adopted kid because you think it's a good idea. It's not a rescue cat. A fucking human being is a very significant choice. And inviting, a child into your house that comes from a foster home might be a noble thing to do if you can't have kids, sure. But a guy that's capable and fertile, and he's not going to want anything to do with a chick that wants to adopt a child.
Well, I would say that's not the case, considering I married one.
Well, your guy's not
You haven't
rich,
adopted one yet.
and you haven't adopted any children.
Yeah, but the fact that he's okay with it is going against with
Hear
what
me
you
out.
just said.
Hear me out,
So
though,
he
Danielle.
says.
Successful, influential, competent, rich men do not want to adopt children. They want their own children. They want to leave a legacy behind. They want to leave their name and their DNA behind.
Successful men that are getting it, like they're betting their dent in the news, don't even want their women to work.
Like you're
I mean,
a sweet girl, Danielle, and it's nice that you've married young, and that's a good thing to do.
Sure.
And build that life together, obviously. But the kind of guys that many of the women on the panel right now that are like thinking about it in their head, it's like they're describing a man that wants to adopt kids is going to be okay with their past of OnlyFans and running nightclubs and being in bottle service. And it's like, these guys don't think that way. I've talked to these guys. Many of them are my clients. I am these guys as well. And it's just a pass. And then gals get the leftovers. Guys get leftovers and gals get the leftovers. The guys that get the leftovers get the gals that have been run through, that didn't choose them in their 20s, that need to get right with God and become born again, virgins again, or, they adopt a new religion. And then they go and get married and they pick their fifth choice. And these guys are leftovers. But women also get it too. You get passed on by the guys that you want. Like you get passed by the guys that you want because you're not the kind of gal that the guys are going to commit to. And you have to take a serious approach to this idea beyond just rainbows and butterflies, which is what I'm hearing most of the time. It's like there's no intention.
Luna, did you want to say something on that? It looked like you did.
No, it's fine.
Why do you think that, Catherine, you said something, it's better to wait or something along those lines. Like you give advice where you'd say wait for that perfect thing, or you said something along those lines. Better to wait than to rush into it when you're young.
Well, I said that specifically for Maria because I felt like there was some strong opinions being said that were just a little unfair.
So fucking what? So what?
Oh,
Why do we have to
my
deal
God,
with fairness all the
sure.
time? Why can't we deal with reality?
This is a young woman's life. Okay, like you may
Yeah,
have,
and
like,
she's
that
getting the cold
viewpoint.
hard truth. She's getting the cold hard truth. We don't need to put rainbows and butterflies on it.
It's not the truth.
She's not 12. No, it is the truth. And you may not accept it to be the truth right now, but you will come to accept it in the future. Trust me. The truth comes for y'all.
There's a lot of extremes that you believe that there's a lot of exceptions to.
Okay, well, tell me one. I'd love to hear it.
Like even
Based-
just the
based in
expectations,
fact.
like every guy wants a specific type of wife. Like every guy's going to want to leave his legacy and he's going to only want to have his own kids. Like that right there is one. There's been others, but I
Not
can't
what-
bring
hold
them
on.
to mind.
Kids,
That's not what
I
he
just
said. That's
explained
not
this
what we
to you.
said.
If you can't have kids, then maybe you might choose to adopt. But if you can have your own kids, the vast majority of these men want to have their own kids.
And yes, sir, I have met men and they do agree that they in fact want to have their own kids. They want to have either I have two of my own kids, then I adopt one, or I have one of my own kid and I adopt one. Like it's like they're willing to compromise. They're not just going to be like, I only want to adopt. I've never once met a man that says, I only want to adopt. So what you are saying is in fact true, but there are also men out there that are like, I understand like the importance of adoption, especially like considering like my background. And I've met plenty of other women that were also in like former foster care who are absolute miracles of women.
Okay,
And
well,
so
we
like,
got
but
okay, well, we got a live
little too
chat. So why
strong.
don't we go to the live chat and ask them? Men, would you prefer your own kids?
You need to ask in the
you-
poll if you only want your own kids, you're okay with having your own kids and adopting, or just solo adopting, because it shouldn't just be one or the other, because the answer for that is going to be obvious. There is a third option if you're going to be doing a poll.
Well, I can put 3 options in here. Absolutely.
Thank you. And then are they able to select multiple answers? 2 answers, no more?
I can add 3 options. So let's do it this way to placate you. So let's go with my own kids, adopt, or a mix of that. Fair enough?
Yes, but I would want them to be able to select 2 answers, so there's a third that they're completely ruling out.
I'm confused.
I
We're
don't
talking
think
about blending the
YouTube
two.
Like,
has
have
that
you, like-
capability.
Okay, well then my
I can add 4
apologies,
options.
then-
I can add 4 options.
No, she wants you to be able to select
No.
more than one option.
No.
Exactly.
I don't
My
think
own
that's the
kids,
thing.
adopt, or a combination of that.
There you go. That's fine. If that's all I
Sure.
can get, I'll work with it.
I'm really
All right,
surprised
cover all
that this is the
scenarios.
hill that we're dying
us
on
your
tonight,
answers.
talking about the adoption.
Give us your answers. The poll is now live.
But I want to go back
mean,
to
why
Danielle's
would you
point
also-
because no, please go ahead, Catherine.
No, because like also like let's think about like the upcoming like reality of like where we are like economically. Like yes, like there is like the birth rate and like the death rate, and like we're obviously like encroaching on like not being able to balance that out, you know. But if people want to be able to like, hey, like let's build like the nest egg, and then like we want to adopt like later on like in life, or have kids like later on in life because we financially want to be set, because we're already struggling, and so we don't want to continue struggling. Like I don't see that as an issue.
96% of the answers are saying that they want their own kids.
Okay, fine. And
So I'm
then
right.
we have adopt, and then we have a combination of both. Okay, cool. So, but I'm still on the board with a combination of both. So
Right, but this is
4%
Exactly.
exactly the
4%.
point they were making. No, but like
This is the point that I'm making, though,
don't
Catherine.
say exactly as this. That's a gotcha. I mean, the whole point
but
we're
he's like basically
making.
saying that like I understand, but like there is still, just like these women are on this panel, we are stating that there are
The
men
vast
out there that
majority of
do
men
want-
do not want
Okay.
to adopt children. They want their own kids. That's what I've said.
Okay, perfect.
And the poll reflects what I just stated. So you're wrong.
Wonderful.
No, but it's fine to say that there are.
Why do you
like,
keep
again,
lying
I
to
don't.
yourselves about all this stuff? Oh, you got to talk to her this way, or maybe there's guys out there that'll do it because I've got this experience in this one obscure corner of the universe where it happens, sort of thing. This is why you guys don't get what you want. Like, we've had women on this show that are in their 40s and they're like, fuck, Rich, I wish I knew this stuff in my 20s and that I would have listened to you because I got the degrees, I got the debt, I got the Tesla, I got the $300,000 a year job, but I got fuck all. I got cats and I hate my life.
I can add something.
You don't want me to tell you the truth. You want me to lie to you.
So I see the data that you're pulling, and I understand we cannot live in the world of exceptions. We have to live in the world of reality. And
Correct.
if the data is saying that, that's fair. However, my husband, I don't think he had really considered adopting until I brought it up with him. But like after we had formed that relationship and he wanted to support me and my ambitions, like I said, if he didn't want to adopt, I would say, okay, you're my husband. Let's do what you want to do. But because he cares about me and cares about what I care about, he's willing to have a combination of both. And that's the beautiful thing of a partnership.
A partnership. Moff,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, because it's not going to be nice.
Okay,
I'm
but
not
I
gonna,
would also
and I'm not going to
agree with-
disparage a man on camera that can't defend himself. So I'm going to hold my tongue.
I'm also going to agree with Danielle, though, that if I did find like the person that I want to go longevity with and they were highly against adopting, like I'm still going to like pursue like that man, So I'm not just going to be like, oh, you don't want to adopt, like, hey, bye. So.
But it still could work out terribly for you. This guy could tell you that he wants to adopt, and then you get married and you're like, hey, like, time to sign the papers. Like, actually, I changed my mind, or I just lied because you're my wife and I wasn't trying to start a fight or sleep on the couch that night. I mean, like, I just don't buy it. Like, it's not something that a man who is sure of himself and wants his own family is going to do. I am sure there are men out there. Of course there are. There are millions of men out there every single day that are saying shit just to placate their wives to get them to shut up and they can go make them a sandwich. That's happening more than you could possibly imagine. And maybe I'm wrong. And maybe one day you will adopt, and that's fine. I'm happy for you if that is the case or whatever that might be. But it hasn't happened yet. And it's so ironic to me that we're talking about, oh, well, you need to wait and learn from past experiences and you need to not jump into something when you're going to take somebody's promise to you at face value and just say, oh, well, I'm with this guy, I'm marrying this guy with the hopes that 7 or 8 years down the road that we'll adopt and he doesn't change his mind. And then what happens? Right. So, like, I don't understand the logic here.
I mean, after talking with you and seeing how you think, I would fully believe that you would do those things. But there is a lot. There's a lot
I
of
would lie. But I would lie.
Yeah,
about what
or
I
you
want.
would tell your woman
Never.
to go make you a sandwich. The way that you talk about women, I believe
Danielle,
that
here's the
about
deal.
you.
I don't even have to tell her. She does it on her own. She knows when I'm hungry. Here's what I have to do. All I got to do is point to the kitchen, and she goes and makes me one. When you're a black belt, when you're a black belt, when you're a black belt in womanese, you don't even have to talk. You just grunt and point.
Womanese.
It just makes me sick that this is what you're teaching to other men.
No, what am I teaching to other men? What do you mean?
That this is how they can. That this is what a marriage is, and this is how they can speak womanese to get their women to do what they want.
I'm obviously being facetious, but when a woman is in tune with her man, he doesn't have to ask her. She just does it. She asks him, "Can I get you anything? What do you need? Can I help you? Is there anything that I can get for you while I'm up? Do you need me to do this? Do you need to refill your drink? Are you hungry?" Women that are in love with their man and see them as the best possible thing that they can get, better than sliced bread. I don't have to tell them to do. Their men don't have to tell them to do anything. They're doing it for them. And guess what? The kind of men that are getting that treatment from women are top shelf guys that want to have their own kids, that are leaders in their household, that make the money and provide so their wife or their girl doesn't have to go to work and work some soul-sucking 40-hour-a-week job and have to go take answers from some boss, and she submits to the guy that writes her paychecks, but she won't submit to her husband. Every study that we have, and there's data that's now coming out when you talk and they've polled working women, especially executive level women. They are the most executive level women are the most unhappy demographic of working women out there. Combined having kids, astronomical levels of depression, sadness, imposter syndrome, anxiety. They're terrible mothers, and they're not generally good at their jobs either. You can't have it all. It's just the way that it is. And I'm sorry, like I don't know why this turned indignant all of a sudden. I was joking about the sandwich thing, but the point that I'm trying to make is that a man is the leader in the relationship, and the man commands that respect because he earns it. And a man worth his salt doesn't have to make concessions, and he doesn't have to make compromises, and he doesn't have to give up what he wants or hide what he truly wants because he's afraid of what his wife will think and afraid that she'll get upset with him. And he certainly doesn't use the word partner when he talks to her and refers to her.
What word would he use?
Another
my
thing
chick,
on what
my wife, my lady, my old lady, my girl, my woman. I mean, the list is endless.
You guys aren't partners. I mean, we talked about this earlier. Who leads the relationship? And almost unanimously, everybody on the panel said the man. And then you're calling your husband or your boyfriend your partner. You're not running a law firm. He's not your partner. He's your husband. You should refer to him as such respectfully, not as your partner. Just like he should respectfully introduce you to colleagues at work. This is my wife, Danielle, not my partner, Danielle.
I never said he was my partner. I said marriage is a partnership.
No, it's
because
not.
you're helping each other.
No, it's not.
It's a leader. It's a driver passenger relationship. It's a leader and a first mate relationship, or whatever you want to call it. It's a pilot and a first mate, or whatever it is. But you have one leader, the man, and you have the woman that's alongside him. Women don't want to lead relationships.
So then I used a term that I meant in a different way, because yes, I believe that there's a leader, and then I would submit to my husband. However, he has my best interest at heart.
Correct. Which means you're not.
I wouldn't even agree with that. I mean, I'll take a step further. I wouldn't even agree with that. I think a man worth his salt has the relationship's best interest at heart. Women are fickle creatures. They're wrong about stuff a lot. They're wrong about what they want. They're herd animals. They love to go along with the crowd. They love the new hot thing that's coming out on TikTok or Instagram, the new stupid saying or Stanley Cups, or the way they dress in the fall or winter. And that's perfectly fine. Let's not act like it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it is what it is. And often women left to their own devices make terrible decisions, like making OnlyFans or putting that stuff on the internet for everyone to see. It's a bummer that Luna dropped, but it's surprising to me that a woman who had a man or a father in her life, that she resorted to such, a disregard of her public image and puts that on the internet. I mean, I've seen her Twitter. She's talking about getting guys to pay for her feet pics or whatever the hell. But so I'm on my soapbox here. I didn't mean to get going like this, but my goodness. Submission is fine. Submit to the man, and he will take care of the woman. It's really that simple. It's not a bad thing. Feminism is poison. Reject all notions of this boss babe mentality if you want to have a happy, healthy, long-lasting relationship that has a bunch of kids and you want to be the most fulfilled in life. If that's not what you want, then go chase the career, the entrepreneurship, and the money, and do all that kind of stuff. That's all fine, well, and good. I've never demonized women going to work. I've never demonized women staying home, but you can't have both. And that's just the hard reality that 99.9% of people aren't going to tell you, especially your friends and your family. And I don't care either way, because I'm a stranger on the internet. Why would you listen to me? That's fine. Maybe because I don't have a personal stake in your life and or your happiness or your sadness, because I'm just a dude in front of a microphone.
You know what's interesting about women and relationships is, I've come to realize this more and more, is that women don't like a lot of things that are good for her and for the relationship. But just because she doesn't like something doesn't mean you don't do it as a guy. Because as a guy, you have to lead the relationship. You have to be willing to do things that she doesn't like that are going to be in the best interest of her and you going into perpetuity, sort of thing, right? And that reality has to exist. And I think that, Moff's point, it's like the whole surrendering and moving away from the nonsense lies that do not work for you. And it's not just, women, it's a lot of guys too. But I mean, Jackie's sitting here on the panel, and she runs a coaching practice for women, and they're all 30 years old looking to find the right guy. And contemplate this for a second. I know Jackie's not going to like this, but these women are lying to themselves, telling themselves that they can be virgins by getting right with God, which is fine. If Jesus wants to forgive you, cool. Guys aren't stupid. If they're going to see a promiscuous past, it still fucking exists. You can't get away from that. And two, it's like they realize that they wasted time, and at this stage of their life, they're not getting the best looking guy that they want. They're not getting the guy that they're strongly attracted to. They're getting the guy that they have to make a concession for. She's basically taken the leftovers at that stage. She's not getting the guy that she wants. Okay?
Or they're getting a guy who doesn't have options and is making concessions for her, which ends up often leading to unhappy scenarios, or like at worst failed marriages.
The prognosis for women and relationships, the way that you guys think about things today, is going to lead you down a path that the vast majority of the women we've had on the show in the past, you can go back to the past ladies night shows where you see the 40-year-olds on there that have figured it out, and they're like, I was lied to. This is bullshit. You're absolutely right, Rich. I wish I would have listened to this, I was in my 20s. But the thing is I probably wouldn't have listened to myself if I sat myself down at 21 either. I'd probably be like, tell this bald guy with a fucking beard to get lost, because I think that I know it all. So I get, the perspective that you're coming from, but even if you take in 5% of something tonight, you'll be better off than you were before the show. I guarantee.
And these guys, although these guys do exist that are willing to make these like sacrifices and all these concessions, we know that these guys at their heart don't actually want these things, because there are also a bunch of guys who will spend years sitting around being your friend in the friend zone, but just hoping to get laid. So we know guys will do this.
Yeah.
The same thing ends up happening in relationships.
What did you want to say about that, Catherine?
Oh no, I was just laughing. That's very true.
It's true, right?
I was laughing because of how true it is. Yeah.
So, like I said earlier, you may not like some of the things you've heard tonight. You may not agree with many of the ideas that you've heard. It doesn't mean that they're not good for you. It doesn't mean that they serve you in a better way, that you're going to have a better relationship. It doesn't mean that it's not going to prepare you to become a better wife, girlfriend, whatever it is that you're planning to be. Because all the stuff that I hear women talk about on these shows, it's like this fucking vortex. It's this tornado of bullshit that, you all tell each other and you stroke each other. Oh, you can't talk to her that way. And, she's beautiful the way that she is. And blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter if she's been with 50 guys. It doesn't matter if she has an OnlyFans and she sells pictures of her asshole online. It's like, keep lying to yourselves. It's not the reality, right? Every time somebody challenged me on something and I threw a poll up, it's like, okay, well, the chat agrees with me too, right? So you have an attentive audience live watching this that's saying, yeah, he's right. So keep lying to yourselves or accept the truth. I think we should wrap up, Moff, because it's gone for a couple of hours and it's getting a little late. You wanna do the closing remarks?
Yeah, I don't want to do any unsolicited advice. I think we
did
we beat everybody on the head tonight. I will say this. Nothing is personal that was said on the show tonight. I hope everybody had a good time. Made us agree on some things. If you hate my guts, hate our guts, sorry to hear that. But you're all five welcome back on the show in the future. If you didn't think you got a lot of it was a lot of folks on the panel tonight, so if you didn't get a lot of word in, obviously Jackie would have liked to hear from you a little bit more. And I know you're just a naturally reserved and quiet woman, which is a good thing for your man, so tip of the cap to you for that. But yeah, Marie and Catherine, I think you're both great. Danielle as well. I'd love to have you both back. We'll be back in January, and we'll do the show every single Tuesday that we can. So we'll have Spencer stay in touch with you, and if you'd like to come back, please feel free. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Have a wonderful night, ladies. Thanks for joining us.
Guys as well.
Contemplate some of it. Thanks. Guys,
Thank
enjoy
you
the
very much for
holiday.
your
I'm not
time.
doing a show tomorrow at noon. I got to get ready for a trip. So we'll be back the week after the holidays or something like that. Just keep an eye out for the next show. Have an awesome night. Peace out.
Thanks, guys.